Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Micks Mowers. In today's episode we're going to be going back to the Honda Hr21, which is a customer's mower that bought in with no spark. You've seen part one hopefully where we took it apart and we diagnosed the parts, and I'm hoping that it's going to be these two items here, which is the new condenser and the new set of points, which I have. They've just literally come through the door now as we speak via Amazon. They were about £25 for the set. Which is quite expensive for a set of points and condenser, but this machine is now getting old. I have found a complete coil condenser and point set. You can get them, however, if you're in Australia or in the States, then you're on a winner. But if you're in the UK, I can't find anywhere in the UK that stocks these straight off the internet. You have to get them from Australia or America, but they're reasonable. They're 50 quid for a complete coil and points and condenser, so it's reasonable for what it is. But these machines are quite old, but they are also renowned for working well as well. So hopefully we can get this machine up and running today. Now I've got to fit these points at around about 12 to 15 thou, so I'll be setting about 14 thou on the points. The condenser will bolt straight onto the core. I'll show you how to do that, no problem at all. And hopefully we can get this little machine to spark, and once it sparks and we've got a continuous spark, we can then go forward and then put this machine back together and try and fire it up if it works. If this is the first time you're watching Micks Mowers, hit the subscribe button, whack your bell, set notifications to all. That way you'll be told when I've done a video, or two, I'm on my Saturday night weekly live stream, which starts at 6:30 PM UK time. So without further ado, let's get down and dirty and let's condense and points and get this machine running. Okay, so I have got you zoomed as close as I can get you without you guys being in the way. So first thing to do is going to be to fit our condenser onto our coil, and that's going to go that way round. This bit here is going to sit on this post, okay? But before we do that, we need to fit this little tiny wire into this little tiny grommet. Now I warn you, you need fingers like a fiddle fairy. This is fiddly, okay? I warn you. So that little tiny grommet sits into there. I'm going to leave the condenser off for now, okay? The reason being is I want as much slack off of this condenser cable as I can muster, because they don't give you a lot. The next thing you want to do is loosen up this little tiny nut on these set of points, and you want to fit your point wire and your condenser wire and your coil wire in behind the two washers on this set of points. Now you might be able to see it at the moment. I will come back round in a minute, but obviously it is so small. There you go. It's not even funny. So now these two clips have now been fitted in behind the metal washer up against this nylon washer. Okay. What I'm now going to do is hold them together and get a little tiny screwdriver, which I have already prepared, which is going to be a 5.5mm, and do up that little tiny nut on the back side of here whilst holding the two clips in place. Now I appreciate you can't see a great deal, but as I say, space is quite tight. So I've done those up. Now on the underneath of this point, you'll see there's a little tiny post just here, okay, and that post is going to sit just in this little tiny hole here without crimping any of the other wires. So I'm just going to maneuver that into position, and that's going to sit down just around about there, and that's actually where it needs to be. There, it just plops into place. Okay, so now those points are now in. We can now lift the condenser up very gently, put that into place. That's going to sit there. Okay, we now want to get hold of, there should be a little tiny flat or Phillips screw bolt. Here it is, and that's going to go into the point setter, just there. Flat-headed driver. And just going to hold that down just so we've got everything in place. Okay, so nothing moves now. Make sure there's no wires being pinched. That's good. I want a 10mm bolt, which is this one here, and that's going to hold down our coil. I need to disconnect the HT lead because that needs to run down through this hole here. If I can get it going, maybe I should remove the coil first, Mick. Might have been a good idea. That's got to go down to there. and so it sits underneath the engine rather than on top. So that maybe should have been done first. Because I have had a call off, see, to test it. I get a pair of long nose pliers just to assist me in this manoeuvre. Just to add a bit of downwards pressure. Go on, down you go. There it goes. And then pull it out the other side. Should be there. And that's got to come all the way down. No kinks. Down like so. Okay, so we have the H-Tilly now back to where it should be. Okay, down through there. Should have done that without the coil on, but I managed it. We're now going to bolt down the condenser. Nice and snug, not too tight. To there. So now we have H-Tilly where it needs to be. Condenser has now been strapped down. It's been done up this side. Points are in, but they're not been set yet. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is going to set these points because they need to move backwards and forwards like so. Okay. So let me get my feeler gauge. I'll be back in 2 ticks and we'll get his point set. Okay, I had to change a camera. I changed the battery on my camera. It's running a bit low. And it'd be a shame to have to do this twice because these can be quite fiddly. Now, you want to put your nut back onto the top of your crankshaft. And just down here on the bottom of a crankshaft, or the base of it, you're going to have what's called a cam lobe, okay? That's designed to be offset, just like a cam is, to open and close your points. Now you want to get this machine at top dead centre. So put a screwdriver down to a piston bore, which I have, and slowly, I'll find a piston, here it is, here's a piston. Piston's going down, it's coming back up. Here comes a cam lobe, and that's going to be it about there. Top dead centre is just before, so that's top dead. I want to come back about 5%, which is just roughly where the top of a lobe, or the highest part of the lobe starts, okay? And you can actually see it, okay? The lobe is just here. There isn't a lobe on the other side, so you know this is the top dead centre side. Now these need to be set between 12 and 15 thou. I got 14 thou. Now this is quite fiddly, okay? And so patience is needed. Undo your points and make sure that this part of the point is pushed up against the lobe, okay? Then you can open your points up, put your feeler gauge in, make sure it's clean, feeler gauge in to 14 thou, hold it in there, push this side where my finger is up against the lobe, and then push the points closed onto the feeler gauge, so you're at roughly 14 thou. It's going to be about there. Now you might have to do this 3 or 4 times before you get it right, because what sometimes happens is the points will close, but that's 14 thou with a bit of resistance, so I'm actually quite happy that first time. It could do loosening off a touch, but don't forget we're between 12 and 15, so I reckon that's about 13 thou, okay? So I'm actually happy with that. If you find that your points are not set right, you need to start the process again and undo this again, push this up against the lobe, and then close your points shut with your feeler gauge in. I'm happy with that. Until you get it. Now you have got quite a bit of tolerance there, but you may set them at 12 and have no spark. So in which case you have to back it off and put a 13 or 14 in. That's why I've gone for 14, which is a sort of centre of play, yeah? So we're happy with that. I can now take my camshaft bolt off. Loosen that off. It is recommended just to put a very small amount of oil onto the crankshaft, just here. Just a small amount, don't go mad. Just enough just to wet the whistle of that pad. That was way too much. Take some of that off. That just blobbed out in one go. So what's happening is that pad's just not going to burn. It's actually going to go around and help keep that clean and what have you. Okay, that should be enough. There's enough on there. Okay, so that's good. The next thing we want to do is we can now start to reassemble. So the points cover can go back on, which is this one here. Push it down through. One that little wire. That can sit onto there. And then we've got two, I think they were 8mm off the top of my head. I can't quite remember now. It's only since yesterday I got two apart and already my brain's gone to mush. So some little tiny, I think they were 8s went in there. Let me get rid of this little socket. I don't need that no more. I think it was an 8, I'm not quite sure now, off the top of my head. Where's my 8? That's a 7. That was an 8, definitely was an 8, okay. There's my 8. We can then do up the 8mm. Now you can just put a flywheel on just to test, but I'm going to go with it to see what we get. So that can then screw down. Not too tight, just well seat it. Okay, so we're happy with that. Next thing you want to do is get your flywheel key. That can go down into position. There. And then get your flywheel, line it up with your key on the flywheel groove, just there. Line that up. The magnet will pull it over, so make sure you get it on. If you don't, you might have to move your crankshaft over a touch, because the magnet is trying to squeeze up against a coil, because that's what it's designed to do. Let's try again. I'm trying to fight this magnet at the same time. It feels about right. I don't know if that got it or not. Oh, that better. It's pushing it slightly off centre. There you go, that's on. Okay, we're happy with that. We can now get our flywheel cover and case. That goes onto there. There'll be a little tiny divot to line this up on, which would be somewhere there, he says. One of these. That lines up. Come on. There it goes. And then this one will then line up with these two holes here, which would be there. We can then get our 10mm. There's 3 10mm bolts to put on, and then the crankshaft bolt itself. So let me get them done up and I'll come back in 2 ticks. Okay, so moment of truth time. I'll put a bit of tape around that spark plug just so I don't short it out anywhere else on the engine. I'm going to grab it. I'll put a boot back on here yet. Let me just make sure you've got that in shot. Where are you? You're about there. And let's see, I've got a bit of noise outside now. Let's just see if we can see a spark. Yeah. See him, Matt? Sparking. Yeah, nice big spark. So we're happy with that. Hopefully you managed to see that. I could see it from where I was. So that's cool. Okay, so next to go on will be the cover. That's just going to sit down up in there, like so. Happy with that. I can then get the bolts. This is where I need to pay attention, Mick, because I've got bolts absolutely everywhere. That's the airbox stuff. I don't need that just yet. Let's bring this stuff in. There's the air filter. And I had, pretty sure they were these kiddies here. One was longer than the other, from what I remember, off the top of my head. If I got it right, that is. So I need to find my DeWalt with a half decent extension and a 10mm. And my 10mm is actually on a ratchet at the moment somewhere. Sorry for the delay, but I've got tools everywhere because I've things with these Hondas is they do take a multitude of tools. They're not quite so straightforward. And I'm pretty sure that long boy went elsewhere. So I'm going to put this one in here. I might have to revert back in a bit, but I'm sure that one went in there. So you've got 3 or 4 of these to go in, which will hold down your recoil assembly. That's that one. And then we had one the other side, and I'm sure the long one went up here somewhere. So it's quite a way to travel. And then a shorter one went up this top end somewhere. That went in there. So I'm just going to loosely fit them for now. I don't want to go too mad. So I've still got one bolt in my hand. And as of yet, I haven't located where that goes, but I will do. Once you've got that on, you've then got to put your air box on. Oh, which would be this kiddie here. And don't forget, you've got to fit your crankcase breather pipe on. And also, I did take off, just remembered, my fuel hose off my carburetor. Now, I did actually split that. So I need to just nick that back a touch. Sorry for kicking the camera. Nick that back a touch. I've got plenty of pipe there to play with. So it's got to nick this fuel line back a touch just where I've split it. That should be more than adequate. Then got to get my fuel hose on, which goes onto there. No kinks. Happy with that. And then the little hose clip to go on top of that. If I can get it. These are generally swines to fit on at the best of times. I was just going to sit on there, okay. Alright, we're happy with that. So that goes on. I'm going to do up this 10mm here very quickly, because I believe this is the one that's correct. Onto there, and I'll nip that one up whilst we're here as well. That's all of that. I can then get my air box, which has now got to slide up into here onto the carburetor itself. That slides up onto there. We're happy with that. I should have a couple of 10mm nuts to fit on the back of the carby. One there. One there. I want another bolt, which is that little tiny bolt I had just 2 seconds ago that I put down somewhere. There it is. With a washer. That one sits into there. So we're happy with that so far. Good. I want to get my short extension now. This has been a little bit of a labour of love, this machine, I must admit. I don't mind working on them, but you just need a multitude of tools. That goes onto there. That goes onto there. Now, one thing I didn't do was my crankcase breather, which is now right at the back. But you can get there with a pair of long nose pliers and manipulate that back onto it, which I'm doing now. If I can get hold of it. There it goes. So my crankcase breather pipe is now on. I'll put the air filter in and air box on top. Well, I don't know whether or not I actually jogged the camera there, people, because I was so busy working, I didn't actually realise I might have jogged the camera, and you may have missed half of what I was doing there. But if you have, I apologise, but it's what it is. I was so engrossed in getting the job done, I forgot. So, pull cord assembly is to go on next. Just going to check the pull cord. It's absolutely filthy. So what I'm going to do with the pull cord, just going to take that nut off there very quickly. Have a clean out. It's just full of dust and what have you. So quick clean up of that. WD-40 it, because it's just not running as well as perhaps it could do. So just a bit of a clean up there, and I'll be back in 2 ticks. Okay, pull cord to go back on, and you've got a foot plate here, which is where your pull cord goes on. So it'd be around about there. You've got 3 10mm bolts to put on, which I should put on with an impact gently to begin with. Don't want to cross thread nothing. So just take your time. Eventually they just bite down. Don't go wind them up full belt, because you just cross thread it. Right, now's an important time to check your bits and bobs box to make sure you've got no spare bits and bobs left that you've missed. And looking at my box, I haven't. Good. So the last thing I've got to do now is I've got to put the boot back onto the HT lead. That's my last job of the day. It's already got a bit of a split in it anyway, but that'll be all right. I can put a bit of tape around that. That's no biggie. In it goes. Give it a twist. And then a bit of tape around that just to hold that still. So it don't go nowhere. I haven't got any black left, I think. I've only got blue and red. I'll put a bit of red. Oh, a bit of blue. Blue will just blend better. And then I'll meet you outside, and then we'll go for a fire up, shall us? To see if this old lawnmower fire up and start now. Hopefully it will do. And the bloke has asked if I can get it back before the weekend. So today is Saturday, and it's about, what's time? 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that isn't bad. Order a set of points up, diagnose, and strip down or what have you, and refit this machine by the weekend. So I think I've done quite well. The customer should be happy. I have spent quite a while on this machine. You know, I've been probably, this takes about 3 hours, start to finish, diagnosis to where I am now, about 3 hours. So it's not been the quickest of fixes, definitely not. But we shall see. So let me meet you outside once I've had a bit of a tidy up and a clean up, and I'll come back to you. And we'll go for a fire up. There's nothing saying it needs a carburetor clean yet or anything like that. I don't even know any of that yet because I haven't had the machine fired. So give us 2 ticks and I'll meet you outside. Okay, it's all done, put back together best I can. Last time we checked, we had a spark. Hopefully we still have. Let's turn the fuel on, which is that way. Let the fuel come on down through. And we'll see what we get, shall we? No fuel leaks as of yet, which is good. On to start, on to choke. Let's see what happens. Come on, girl. There you go. It's going to be a bit smoky, of course, because we have had it tipped up, done bits and pieces to it, but it wants a good run. It hasn't been run for nearly a year, so he says, so hence the reason why it's starting to smoke a little tiny bit. I did check the oil before starting it up, and the oil is absolutely spot on where it needs to be. So we've changed a set of points, and a condenser. We diagnosed the fault correctly, which is absolutely brilliant because the parts of these are not cheap. The bloke brought it in on Thursday night, giving me just one day and said, can I have it back by the weekend? Today is Saturday, and hopefully, if it start again now, he's got his machine back. Idles beautifully. So super happy with that. The machine is A1 for its age. You can now have it back, good to go. Okay, so that is the Honda Hr21, now all done, up, running. It was a bit smoky, but then so would you if you get out of bed for the first time in a year. The smoke has now stopped. A little bit of smoking when you turn the engine off, but the machine is getting old. And most of the machines that I see of this particular make and model and age, they generally smoke on fire up, and this doesn't do that. So that's good. So new points, new condenser, set between 12 and 15 thou. I set mine around about 14 thou. With a new condenser on there as well, with a coil all tidied up and what have you, and everything all cleaned off. The machine's now all up and running. The customer did just ask me if I put a new HT lead on it. It doesn't need it, and you can't just fit new HT lead on those without changing the coil. And the new coils on those are pretty much non-existent in the UK. So I'm super happy. Another machine brought back from the dead. He really liked his Honda. He bought it off of me 4 years ago, I think, and he loves the machine. It just could do a bit more of a service, I think. But there you go, he's happy. He's just been chasing his dog around the countryside for 4.5 miles whilst trying to talk to me at the same time. So he's now out of breath. I'm going to pick the machine up tomorrow morning, or maybe tonight if he can feel up to it. So that's cool. So super happy. If you've got any questions about these little Hondas, you can ask away. I'll try and help where I can. These are a slightly older machine, but quite desirable. And they do exactly what they say on the tin. They are a proper workhorse. All the old councils used to use them, and lots of professional gardeners still do use them because of a grunt that they have. So super happy. If this is the first time you're watching Micks Mowers, hit the subscribe button, whack your bell, set notifications to all. That way you'll be told at one I've done a video, or two I'm on my Saturday night weekly live stream, which starts at 6:30 PM UK time. I look forward to the next episode of Micks Mowers very soon. But until then, people, don't forget, much more importantly, take her easy.